channel. How's everybody doing this evening? Well, I'm finally going to have my live stream on the Nuremberg Code and the implications of today, how it impacts today. So, in the Nuremberg Code has to deal with medical tyranny. But that's what we're going to discuss today. And the thing is, I may use some code words, but this is a live stream, some content that could get my channel canceled. Okay, I realize that Pokey Poke shot, Simon Says Pokey Poke, is has a black label on it now, but anyway, YouTube's main advertisers are the ones who make that type of stuff, and the pharmaceutical companies, and you know, they don't like it when they're bashed. But anyway, we're going to get into the Nuremberg Code tonight. It's a very interesting discussion. Okay. Anyway, I tell you what, I got to waste a little time for people to show up. So let's talk about one video that's catching on. But isn't that something? That's crazy. But don't worry, Venezuela is our enemy, right? It's crazy time. But yeah, that's something else in that state. That state's lost its oda. Spent a lot of in my life in Minnesota when I wasn't in the service and stuff. But it's turned into East Germany, East Berlin. If anybody back in the Cold War days remember true communism, that's what's going on in Minnesota. And now they're ripping off American citizens with all the fraud going on. Like I say, how many Americans suffered because there was a lack of money, because it was fraudulently taken from the taxpayers that was supposed to help pay for an American citizen that needed help. Anyway, bad times. And like, this is going to spread through all 50 states. This just wasn't exclusive to Minnesota, believe me. And I'm sure it wasn't exclusive either to just the Somalian community. I'm sure other communities from other countries partook in the same type of fraud. So anyway, great world we live in. YouTube must be pissed at me. Nobody's showing up. I tell you what, I really rung their bell today when it came to my shorts I was putting on. Oh yeah, YouTube's throwing a little fit. I gotta tell you what. Oh, here I got some people showing up. Hey, how do they put it? A code of ethics. Where's that? Is a set of ethic research principles for human experimentation created by the court in U.S. versus Brandt. Okay, it was in 1947 during the Nuremberg trials and stuff. They had put the doctors on trial too that committed all these experiments, right? And this is what the Nuremberg Code came out of, okay? And the purpose of the Nuremberg Code, and like I say, this is international law. And breaking this code is crimes against humanity. Before we get into this, I want to say, all of us YouTubers and people that were against the Simon Says Pokey were trying to get the message out that it was a dangerous thing. We were shut down. I mean, I lost my channel because of that. All right? So we were trying to warn people. Anytime the government's trying to give you baseball tickets to take something or a $100 bill, it's probably the best thing not to do it. But we tried to warn people. And the people that got caught in this trap, listen to this. If you were forced to take the Simon Says Pokey, you need to listen to this live stream. Because you will see the criminal acts that were, perpetrated against you. Anyway, like I say, this came out of Nazi Germany after all the experiments they did on all types of people. All right? This is why this code of ethics, the Nuremberg Code, to protect all citizens of the world. All right? This ain't just for Americans or Germans or French or Russians, all citizens of the world. International law. And if you break them, it's crimes against humanity. Anyway, let's get into the Nuremberg Code. Okay, the purpose of the Nuremberg Code. The purpose of the Nuremberg Code is to establish fundamental ethic principles for human experimentation, primarily ensuring the voluntary consent of subjects and protecting them from exploitation, stemming from the horrific Nazi medical experiments during World War II. Okay. The purpose to basically voluntary consent, very big one in it. Okay. The principles of the Nuremberg Code. The absolute necessary for subjects to freely consent to participate free from coercion. That means you can't be. They can't sit there and tell you that if you don't take this, you'll lose your job. Societal benefit. Experiments must yield valuable results for society that cannot be obtained otherwise. Okay, risk mitigation. Experiments must avoid unnecessary suffering and injury with risk never exceeding the problem's importance. Basically, if the cure kills more people than the disease, that's not right. But that happened, didn't it? Scientific qualifications. Only scientific qualified individuals should conduct research. So you know what that means, Bill Gates? You're not a scientist or a doctor, okay? I'm just as good a doctor as Bill Gates. Anyway, foundation for ethics. It established that human experimentation must meet moral, ethic, and legal standards, influencing all substantial guidelines like the Declaration of Helsinki and the Beaumont Report, which I don't know what those are. I should have checked them up. But anyway, yeah. This was passed in 1947 and reinserted in 1997, that it still exists in its international law. And like I say, anybody breaking it is guilty of crimes against humanity. You got to tell this to Congress. I tell you what, hey, believe me, I got the FBI watching my channel. All you got to do is watch my content. I guarantee you there's a government agency watching my channel. And I hope the CDC is watching tonight. Yeah, this should have been taught. We'll get in to the 10 principles. But, during the pandemic, I knew about this because I studied World War II intensely, trying to figure out how the world could go so frickin' mad. And I knew about this. And when all this Simon Says bullshit was going on, I tried warning people. And I just got shoved off. Shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. This is for the good of society. And now the Simon Says Pokey Pokey is a black label bottle. So let's get into the 10 principles. The first one's kind of long, so bear with me. The voluntary consent, number one, the voluntary consent of the human subject is absolutely essential. This means that the person involved should have all legal capacities to give consent, should be so situated as to be able to exercise free power of choice without the intervention of any element of force, fraud, deceit, duress, overreaching, or other ulterior form of constraint or coercion, and should have significant knowledge and comprehension of the elements of the subject. This latter element requires that before the acceptance of the affirmative decision by the purpose affirmative decision by the purpose of the experiment, the method and means by which is to be conducted, all inconveniences and hazards, responsibility to be expected, and the efforts upon the health or his health or person which may possibly come from his participation in the experiment. The duty and responsibility for asserting the quality of the consistence rests upon each individual who initiates, directs, or engages in the experiment. If the personal duty and responsibility which may not be delegated to another with impunity. Basically meaning you can't be told that you gotta participate. They can't sit there and hold nothing over your head. This is very strange. I know, but it's, look up the Nuremberg Code. Look it up. Go to Google, Nuremberg Code. It'll pop right up. Yeah, it's strange that we didn't realize, I knew it, most people didn't realize that they are not subject to medical tyranny under international law because of what happened in World War II. And like I say, any violation of this, is crimes against humanity. Against humanity. Now that first paragraph basically says, like I say, one says, you cannot be able to exercise free power of choice without the intervention of any element of force, fraud, deceit, duress, overreaching, or other ulterior forms of constraint or coercion. Crazy time. Hey, you know what, the mega, why don't you guys get on him and stop messing with Venezuela and tell your boss to start bombing Somalia. Okay, El Shabib or Shabab or whatever, they've been financed pretty good by the American taxpayer. Maybe we should start bombing terrorists, carpet bomb the shit. And since the government of Somalia was behind it too, why don't we take out the government? When it's figured the total cost of the money that these Somalians took from the American taxpayer, it's going to be more money than that was given to Ukraine for the Ukraine war. Just saying, be prepared for that. Okay, back to 2, the second principle of the Nuremberg Code. Hey, YouTube, I appreciate you making sure this gets out. This is the thing. This one may get my channel canceled, and I'm just reading, what I pulled off the internet. Something I knew existed. Trying to inform the people. But whatever, YouTube, whatever. You can't hide the truth forever. Hide from the truth forever. Like I say, a lot of people, you probably didn't know this. Probably never heard of this before. Like I say, if they're trying to exercise medical tyranny on you, why would they tell you what your rights are by international law? Anyway, the second one. The experiment should be as to yield fruitful results for the good of society, unprocedurable by other methods or means of study, and not random to unnecessary in nature. What that means is it's got to benefit society, and the only way you could have it is if there's no other way that you can solve the problem, like with ivermectin or horse paste, right? I'm just saying. So you could cure it with horsewormer medicine or ivermectin. So all this that they put the whole fucking world through was completely useless. I even heard malaria pills helped. And maybe that's why I never got COVID. Because when I was in the Marine Corps, I had to take a session of malaria pills. Wasn't allowed to give blood for 2 years, or was it 5 years? I can't remember. It was quite a while. But anyway, maybe that's why I never got COVID. But all of it was on SCC broken. Principle 2 is broken. ivermectin and horse paste. Cured it. But they decided to put a lot of people through hell and spend a lot of money all over scaring people. Okay, so boy, you weren't allowed to sit there and be coerced into it. Fraud, deceit, duress, overreaching, forced, or anything. And I would say, hey, if you don't take this, you're going to lose your job. That sounds like force. I like to say Angry Prepper. He's a fireman out of New York. I'm proud of him. Big black guy. If I ever go to New York, I want to walk the streets with him. I know I'll be safe. But anyway, he didn't take it. And they fired him. And then I think he was thinking about taking early retirement, but then they called them all back a couple of years later, right? So he went back. Anyway, anyway, they're just breaking the shit left and right. Okay, number 3. The experiment should be designed and based on the results of animal experimentation and the knowledge of the natural history of the disease or other problems under study that the anticipate results will justify the performance of the experiment. Okay, so basically it needs a lot of experiment time. They need to do tests on animals. Operation Warp Speed was a crimes against humanity. It was. And what did Trump say? It was his biggest accomplishment. But according to the Nuremberg Code, it's crimes against humanity. No other way to put it. Okay. And it just, in the natural history of the disease. They say it just came out of nowhere, okay? And within 6 months, they got a vaccine. That goes against the third one here about animals and knowing the natural history of it, studying it and stuff. This is the thing, too. Remember in the 1970s, the swine flu thing, where they came up with a vaccine right away? And it killed a few people, and they shut her down immediately, and the whole government went mute on it. Anyway, number 4, the experiment should be so conducted as to avoid all unnecessary physical and mental suffering and injury. Okay, that's the experiment. See, this is the thing when they talk about experiment. Didn't you all who took the shot have to sign a piece of paper that you were taking an experimental drug, an experimental vaccine? Didn't you all have to sign papers that way? Now, I know of people that have been injured from it and died from the vaccine, even though you can't prove it, right? A guy dies on a motorcycle in Florida, motorcycle accident, but he died of COVID, right? But, COVID was the only shot the only thing the pharmaceutical companies made. I mean, since you're not going to sit there and push this live stream YouTube, I'm not going to use code words, okay? And if you're going to cancel my channel because of the Nuremberg Code, actual facts, actual international law that was broken, or the Simon Says pokey poke, then you just don't want the truth out. That also gets in here too, okay? Number 5, no experiment should be conducted where there is prior reason to believe that death or disabling injury will occur, except perhaps in those experiments where the experimental physician also serves as a subject. I read that. Can you imagine? So they're saying if they want to sit there and, push something that may cause injuries, the doctor that's conducting the experiment has to take the same treatment. Wasn't it the pharmaceutical companies and all their employees that were exempt from the shot, along with government and government employees? Yeah. Well, right here, crimes against humanity. The CEO of those companies should have been the first ones in the subject, along with the stupid doctor they got convinced to deal with the shit. Yeah. So far, out of what? 4 codes, they've broken every one. Everything from Trump to the pharmaceutical companies, to the fucking everybody who pushed it. Doctors, nurses who were paid off by the pharmaceutical companies and the government. Hey, you can push these shots, we'll give you so much in kickback. And if you can sit there and put that somebody died of COVID on their death certificate, then you get some money from the government. Where human death became profitable for doctors and pharmaceutical companies. Crazy world we will live in. You know, pharmaceutical companies, the military industrial complex. Look at all these people that make billions, trillions of dollars off of people dying. Soylent Green, I need to watch that show. I see that on YouTube. I need to sit there and watch that movie. Once it comes up all the time. So that must be, maybe the Lord's telling me to watch it. I have no idea what that movie's about, but I'm going to watch it. Anyway. Okay. Oh, that was number 5. So they broke all 5 principles so far. Okay. Should we go for 6? See if they can go 6 for 6? The degree of risk to be taken should never exceed that determined by the humanitarian importance of the problem to be solved by the experiment. So basically, like I say, if the cure kills more people than the disease, they're breaking number 6. Anybody want to go against me on that? Let's not forget that Russia, Fauci goes to Russia, he will be arrested and charged with crimes against humanity. Okay, Russia has already said that. I wonder why the Russians think so highly of the Nuremberg Code. Oh, maybe it's because of the way their population, their prisoners of war, and their citizens were treated under the Nazis with medical experiments. I wonder if that has anything to do with it. Okay. Soylent Green, I'll tell you what, I'll watch that. Gary the Snail. Oh, I love it. I love Gary the Snail. Cool. Yeah, I tell you what, I got to watch SpongeBob. I didn't like Red and Stimpy, but when I had kids, my kids were young, we watched SpongeBob. I actually got some 6 DVDs of SpongeBob episodes, but that was good. Gary the Snail. I like it. Okay. Oh, like I say, people died from the cure, then died from the disease. That's breaking number 6. Okay. And I can say that probably happened. Number 7. Boy, YouTube just loves this. Like if you're here and you're watching, please hit that thumbs up to subscribe and the bell notification. Because, I tell you what, I like kicking against the pricks, especially when the pricks are a bunch of fucking beta males. Anyway, number 7. I'm a Marine, man. I don't know how to give up. I'm like the fucking Terminator. The more you push against me, the harder I push back. It's just in my nature. I was a rebel as a kid, a little feisty, scrappy dude, and the Marine Corps turned me into a properly trained scrappy dude. Anyway, number 7. Proper preparation should be made and adequate facilities provided to protect the experimental subjects against even remote possibility of injury, disable, or death. Now, I would imagine that all pharmaceutical companies do that. They're not flat out trying to sit there and kill their well, like I say, with the Simon Says shot, you signed a paper saying it was an experimental drug, so you were the experiment. I think they were hoping for the best. Let's hope, let's hope. They're hoping it wouldn't have turned into what it turned into. Okay? But, I don't know about that one. Did they break that one? That's kind of like they all could say, well, we didn't really know, but they had research, right? Okay, number 8. The experiment should be conducted only by scientifically qualified persons. Bill Gates, sorry, you're bye-bye. The highest degree of skill and care should be required through all stages of the experiment of those who conduct or engage in the experiment. So that means what that means is since you signed a paper saying that was an experimental drug and you were basically an experimental part of the experiment, that means that any cost that came from taking that experiment, even though they want to sit there and say you signed the disclaimer, no, you got the Nuremberg Code. Guess what? Somebody had to get hospitalized because of their COVID shot. Guess what? Pharmaceutical companies, you got to pay. You got to pay. Right here it says it. Okay? Protect it. You are to provide medical care for anything that goes wrong with your experiment. Did that happen? Like I say, it hurts me to know that I knew about this. I tried to warn people, and people would not fucking listen to me because they said I didn't know what I was talking about. This is what happens when you don't teach history. It is repeated. Just because we weren't at war and we weren't declared the enemy, the American citizens of the world were declared the enemy. We were put in your own little experimental concentration camps. I mean, look, some people are still wearing masks while riding with their windows up in their car by themselves. Okay, that's the Howard Hughes level of crazy shit. Anyway, number 9. During the course of the experiments, the human subject shall be at liberty to bring the experiment to the end if he has reached the physical or mental state which continuation of the experiment seems to him to be impossible. Okay? But I guess if the experiment was just, well, you got the shot and there's nothing you can do about it. And then they came up with boosters. Remember all the booster shit? Oh, you need to take a booster every 2 months. You need to take a booster. You need to wear 2 masks and all this shit. Remember all that? I mean, do you realize how stupid human beings look for about 2 years? I always say after that Saturday when we ran out of toilet paper in this country, the average person who lives in a normal land, okay, not Reelsville, but their own little world, they went insane that day because it could never happen here. If this is what not getting to the vax does to you, then can I please sign up? Oh, cool. You want to sit there and take as many, this is the thing. Voluntary consent. That's the whole thing about the Nuremberg Code. The 2 words that are the most important thing. Voluntary consent. You have freedom of choice, sir. You can do whatever you want. I'm not going to stop you. But I'm also not going to be responsible for your decisions. Okay? I'm responsible for my decisions. You want to sit there and play Russian roulette? I think it's fucking stupid. But, everybody likes their own degree of risk. But hey, they're coming out with that all-in-one vax now with Bill Gates helping. Maybe you should line up for that one. I tell you what, these trolls think they can get the best of me. I mean, you get better trolling out of kindergartners. I mean, really, you trolls want to learn something? Take some pointers from Trump. Anyway, number 10. During the course of the experiment, the scientists in charge must be prepared to terminate the experiment at any stage if there is probable cause to believe in this exercise of good faith, superior skills, and careful judgment required to him that the continuation of the experiment is likely to result in injury, disability, or death of the experiment subject. All three of them happened. Did they halt the experiment? No. You see the advertisements, you hear the advertisements all the time. They haven't stopped. In fact, they're making more mRNA vaccines so you are in control of what goes in your body and what happens to your body. This is the thing with the Nuremberg Code. Your body is your personal property. It's your soul's personal property. You determine what goes in it. Nobody is allowed to sit there and just take stuff as they want or put stuff in it. All right? Without your voluntary consent. And all you that wanted us weirdos on YouTube shut up and wanted us thrown in jail, they wanted us basically killed because we wouldn't take the hokey poke. And now all you are suffering from long-term COVID, enlarged hearts, problems with fertility, strokes, and death. After they started with the shot, we got a new disease. Remember? Sudden adult death syndrome? Sudden adult death syndrome? And not to mention 5-year-olds having heart attacks. Anyway, there's a lot of people that are guilty of crimes against humanity. Operation Warp Speed was a crime against humanity. Anybody who was forced in any way, coerced, lied to, used deceit, fraud, or anything to get them, or toys, money, McDonald's, baseball tickets, coercion, to take the shot, you lose your job or you take the shot, is guilty against crimes against humanity. So that means if your boss came up to you and said, you are fired if you don't take the vaccine, they are guilty of crimes against humanity. Yeah, it goes down that low. Okay? Now, sorry, it doesn't say nothing about the assholes that sit there and want people arrested because they wouldn't take the COVID shot. You pricks are covered, okay? Because you were voluntary participants. You gave your voluntary consent to go into that, sign that piece of paper saying you were an experimental rat. I mean, some people died right after they took the shot on camera. Died instantly. Must have gave them too much. Huh? There was a nurse that actually died instantly. I mean, don't worry about it, people. Don't worry about it. Because you saw our politicians get that fake shot. Anyway, yeah, I wonder if this live stream is going to get my channel canceled. Because they don't want this getting out. They don't want people realizing that they had rights by international law. International law covers Americans too. And they didn't want people knowing this. That's why a lot of people are like, holy shit, he's got to be lying. Look it up. Look up the Nuremberg Code. I'm not lying at all. Completely true. You know, the thing is, we got some really evil people in charge of the world. See, this is the problem, okay? The normal person who goes to work every day, lives his life, is happy with his life, doesn't want to run for politics. It just, it's not part of my nature. Somebody like me does want to sit there and get into a position where I'm making laws, telling people what to do. I always say politics we need term limits for number one. Get lobbyists, no big money at all. If you get a politician taking money and when you're in office, you're not allowed to invest in the stock market at all. Okay? But people, to get good people in Congress, the good people are going to have to be forced. What I mean by that is the people of their district or whatever are going to have to get together and say, you're running, you don't have a damn choice. That's just the way it's going to be, because then that person, you got to make it like jury duty. And then you put them in a barracks in D.C. They don't need a fucking house. Build them BOQ, Bachelor Officer Quarters, or whatever. Nice place while they're serving their country, okay? But it's got to be like jury duty. Because then you're going to go there, do what you're supposed to, what your constituents want you to do, and then you're going to go back home to your job in your life with no retirement. Well, that's right. Marjorie Taylor Greene retires on June 5th because on June 3rd, she gets her golden parachute retirement package, medical or whatever, from Congress. I don't think she gets it till later. I don't know. She's got to wait a couple years. But anyway, I think she's got to get a certain age. But it's amazing how she increased her wealth from $700,000 to $25 million in 5 years. That's 3,500% and some change in 5 years. Did anybody else's income go up 700% 5 years straight? Traitorous assholes on both sides. Anyway, so that's my thing on the Nuremberg Code. I was going to do that. Like I said, I knew YouTube wasn't going to push this one. That's fine. I put so much stuff on YouTube. Say if you're here, please check out my other content, especially if you're interested in what's going on in the Minnesota fraud. Check out the shorts and the video I did on that today. It's the truth, okay? And a lot of people are pissed. That's just another part of fraud, where the American people just got it up the old, like I say, it's going to come out where the Somalians stole more money from us than we given to Ukraine for the Ukraine war. You just watch. Because of empathy-driven Democrats. Can a Democrat have empathy for an American just once? Anyway, that's all I got for tonight. I appreciate everybody being here. Hit that thumbs up to subscribe and the bell notification. I put out a lot of content. I probably put out at least 2 to 4, even 10 shorts a day. And I try to put out a live stream at least 6 days a week and a video 6 days a week. I put out a lot of content. I ruffle a lot of feathers out there in social media because I am not. I'll kick against the pricks all fucking day long. Maybe you shouldn't have made me what you made me into in the Marine Corps. You shouldn't have took this 18-year-old that was putty in your hands and turned it into what you needed. Anyway, that's the thing. There I was a dime a dozen. And when this world gets so bad and, I'm a dime a dozen out in the civilian world where there's millions of me, we'll get some problems solved. By the way, this is just another continuation, people. Somebody who got hurt, injured from the Simon Says Pokey Pokey really needs to take the Nuremberg Code to a lawyer and put these people that forced it on you, just put them through the ringer. International law. You got the law on your side. Anyway, appreciate everybody being here, and I'll see you guys tomorrow night. Tomorrow night is going to be my prediction show. I'm going to do it on December 30th. Predictions for next year. So that should be pretty interesting. That one will probably be a couple hours. So if you want to show up for that one and give your prediction, you're more than welcome. Anyway, I appreciate you all you being here. This is Tom with the Hidden Truths. I'm out of here.